Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Turf Today podcast. And we're right back into your ears. Thank you so much again for joining us. Another episode of Turf Today. We are joined by the amazing Ben McGraw today, turf entomologist from Penn State. We want to thank everybody for listening to the show and sharing the show. If you've given us a rating or a review, thank you so much. It's hard to get these days, and we really appreciate that. As we said last episode, this show cannot grow without you guys. Everything you're doing to help us out has been fantastic, and hopefully we can just keep on providing some great content for you to help educate you, entertain you a little bit, and then maybe keep you going throughout the week when things are tough. It's a fun industry, but it's also a hard-working industry, and we are here for you guys. We know how hard you work, and we want to provide you with as much content as we possibly can. I'm going to throw it down to Brian today, see how he's doing. What's going on, brother?
How's it going?
Not too bad. How are you?
Hanging in there, man.
Yeah?
Another beautiful day.
Must be hot down there because it's been hot up here.
It's brutal. 100 degree. I think it was 110 heat index yesterday.
Ooh.
So it's hot.
Ooh.
It is hot. So I have so much respect for the guys that are down south, guys and girls that are down south doing this thing in the heat.
No kidding,
It's
eh?
insane. Yeah, I mean, the overnight temps are, I don't know. I think it gets down to 70, but overnight average is probably like 80.
Yeah, you're just playing catch up, right? If it's not raining or cooling off at night, you're just playing catch up.
Dude, yeah, pretty much, yeah. And especially a couple of these guys down here have bent grass greens, so it's like
right in it. Whereabouts
man.
are you right now? You're in a hotel, I can see.
Hotel in Grand Prairie, Texas. So was at Colonial yesterday, Dallas National today, and then sneaking over to Lakewood tomorrow, and then home.
Busy.
Yeah,
I know. I love the video you posted today of all the travels down and back and over and across and down again.
yeah, it's it's fun. 23 nights on the road the last 2 months almost. So pretty good. And then that also, 1 week of that I was at home, but still at a tournament. So it was like,
yeah, exactly. You're still working.
yeah, it's still out there. It's catching up to me. You could probably hear it in my voice. There's, I don't know, a little exhaustion or something going on, but
Yeah, you look like you
we're
got
gonna
some
fight
sun.
through it, brother.
Yeah,
Dude.
had a boy.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely sunny out here. It's been good though. My last couple trips down to Dallas National, it's been really cloudy and had a little bit of rain, so it was nice to get some sunshine out here for a change.
Yeah, that's what you want when you're going down to Texas, right?
Yes, you want a little sunshine. I could do without 110 degrees, but
Yeah,
it is
no,
what it is.
that is hat.
I remember we came down here last year, my wife and I, when I was doing some projects, and we stayed at Frisco, and Frisco is unbelievable. If you want to go there, you got to make the trip. It's just, they've done a great job. The new PGA facility down there, they've got an Omni hotel, so we were staying at the Omni, and they've got an adults only swimming
Ooh.
pool and bar area, like the top of the resort. It's like 110 degrees, and
Man.
she can lay around. I'm not the person that can lay around and do nothing. But every now and then I'll, take one for the team and go up there and hang out. But I couldn't sit in the pool. It was too hot to even be in a pool. So it's
Oh my gosh.
I went in the shade
Yeah,
at the bar and just sat there and got some work done.
under an umbrella with something cold in your hand, right?
Oh yeah. I can't take it. It's like we talked about it before. Like, I don't consider myself a night person or a morning person. It's like I'm not a warm person or a cold person either. It's like I'm
Need to be right
just
in the
give me
middle.
like 75. Yeah, give me Northern California all day long.
Yeah.
What have you been up to, man?
Dude, we had a busy
Recovered from
weekend.
the trip?
Yeah, and I mean it was Canada Day weekend up here, so a lot of stuff was shut down. A little bit of a long weekend.
Yeah.
We had the football game, and the fair was in
Yeah.
town for we didn't make it to the fireworks and stuff last night, but we did all the rides and all the fun stuff yesterday.
Cool.
Yeah, good to hang out with some family and reset and back to work again tomorrow. So it's like things just keep
Just
on
doing it.
moving, right?
Just
It's like
doing it.
weekend comes, you have a wild time, then back to the work week, and then a wild time on the weekend again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun.
You're young. You can handle it.
Yo, for sure. Yeah, and I just keep saying to my wife too, we're a couple months away from really hunkering down with baby number two. So, if we're gonna have some fun this summer, we kind of gotta get the most out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have Ben McGraw joining us today.
Famous guest here. Let's see if he turns his camera on.
Oh,
Oh, I know
all
what it is.
audio.
Hey,
Boom.
blinded by the light.
There he is.
Yeah,
Oh, what an
that's an
intro.
entrance right there. That's a way to make
There
an
we go.
entrance. I love it. How you doing?
What's going on? I could get my kids. Brian, you probably have one of these circular
Oh
lamp
yeah. Oh,
things.
of course.
Look at that.
That's
I like that.
is that what you use for all your TikTok dances, Ben?
No, but I think my kids wanted to be influencers or something. Let's see if this works. I don't think I've actually ever used this before,
No.
but
Got to
Well,
get that lighting just
the
right.
camera thing will get it just right.
Look
Oh,
at
Hey,
that.
wow. Is that too
man.
much?
No, that's beautiful.
That's
How
adding
about
to the
we?
production value right there.
There we go.
You're getting the
Awesome.
shadows in all the right places and everything. It's
I
very
know.
professional.
I know.
Very
I'm feeling pretty haggard, so any help that I can get in the beauty department. It's been a long day,
long
boys.
day
Long
already.
day.
Chasing kids around or
Long
what?
day. Chasing bugs
Yeah,
around and hammering PVC cans, 392 PVC cans into the ground. I'm too old for this shit.
man.
So
So what you were out at the
yeah,
research facility then, or were you out at a
I
course?
was. I was. No, we're at a local course putting out traps for tomorrow and then making their little love nests by driving cylinders into the ground. So halfway through, we realized, what if we just irrigate the piss out of this? It might go in easier, and
Ah,
it did, but not before I got some severe blisters
Isn't that
going
what you have
on.
grad
So
students for?
yeah, I know. I had one sick, one's studying intensely for her examination. So everybody's busy. Everybody's
that time of
busy.
year, right?
It
So
is.
is
It
it for
is.
ABW or what?
This is for white grubs. We're already into white grub season, so it's flying around. I saw your little video of all the travels that you guys have been
We were
on,
just talking
so
about that there, how much Brian's been flying around. It's been wild.
It's a life, man.
nuts.
It's a life these days. You know how that goes.
It's a
I'd like to see
grind.
your map, man.
Yeah, how much traveling do you end up doing throughout the year, Ben?
Well, I go to Pittsburgh twice a week, so that seems like a lot. So that's about 10, 12 weeks out of the year. I'm doing that twice a week. And then we got a good field site in Lebanon, PA, which isn't close either. So that seems like a win by just going 2 hours in the other direction. So that's once a week. So spring is crazy. It's just like a lot of PA travel, but a lot of road time. A lot of road time. It's not a huge amount of pest pressure in this part of the world. It's pretty chill place to grow grass. So with that, we have to travel to our site. So that keeps me busy. And then usually once we get these beetles into the ground, it's pretty good for a little while. And then, get a little bit of a breather for August and then school starts. So with that, there's a, conference season. So that's when the next big travel comes along. But, as far as research travel, it's really about a 12-week push in the spring that's really, really chaotic and just a lot of time behind the steering wheel. So winter time's a lot of
What's
airport
your
travel.
appointment, Ben? What's your research, extension, teaching, all that?
I Yeah, so it just got changed a couple of years ago. So I do have to think about this. It's 50% teaching, 25% extension, 25% research.
You're
So
busy.
it's a
Yeah,
lot.
it is.
But it is. I mean, and they dangle the carrot for the extra pay. So I do teach more than my 50%, so I get credit for that, and that's nice. I like to think that we give 110% in research and extension. So, but it doesn't work that way.
I was gonna say,
But we
how do
try.
you balance it all?
I mean, I think it's it's just kind of embodies the whole part of the job. I think it's more about like those things kind of feed off each other, if anything. So like, if you're doing research, you should be communicating that research. So the extension part should be easy. And that's actually probably the part I like the most is, being able to talk to superintendents and turf grass managers, sports field managers, homeowners too. I mean, you get some wild conversations with homeowners and the different things that come my way through them. But that's fun. I like that. And, it's kind of a loop. They come up with questions that you don't have answers for. So that kind of guides research. Teaching, I don't know. I guess my first job out of grad school was pretty intense teaching at Delhi when I was with the turf program at Delhi. And, that was 5 classes and 5 labs every week.
Ooh,
So It seems kind of like a breeze here, teaching, a couple online and a couple in the classroom, but like that kind of keeps you busy. We kind of cover everything with education here at Penn State. So we have certificate classes or program, we have online programs, we have residential programs. So with that, it's the full rainbow of kind of teaching and student learners. So that kind of keeps you on your toes. So yeah, I mean, I think it's tough when they start overlapping. So spring is really difficult, to be honest. I'm wrapping up a lot of like international and regional, national travel for conferences. I'm still trying to teach and be in the classroom twice a week. And then weevils start coming out of the ground, out of the woods rather. And, with that, it's just like a full court press. I mean, that's a large part of what we do in our lab. So that one insect, kind of drives a lot of what we do and where we travel to. And so that's, just looking back on that stuff, it's a blur from March until middle of June. And I think things are a little bit warmer this year. So it's like, man, I can't believe white grub season's here already. But other than that, I think in the summertime, I probably have the best job in turf normally. It's just like I've got a mountain of reports staring at me over here that I need to write. So it's always something. It's always
That's
something.
got to be fun though, and we've never really brought somebody like you on the show, so it's really cool to get to talk to somebody that's in a different kind of area of the industry. And I know I've learned a lot about different parts of the turf industry from professionals like yourself. So it's great to get to know you a little bit. We'd love to ask you about Penn State, but before we get there, we want to know kind of your journey that brought you into teaching and doing all this research and stuff. Was this something at a young age you knew you were going to do, or did you kind of find a direction?
Not at all. I mean, really, I played high school golf and I grew up golfing. My dad introduced my grandfather and his brothers to golf like in the 70s. So my grandparents were, a big influence in my life and they golfed and I had a lawn mowing business and all of that, but I can't say as I ever thought about being in turf. And, I went to the University of Maine and I probably told this story many times on different podcasts, but I was a below average college student, like the kind that they ask not to, that they don't want your tuition money anymore. So I exited stage left pretty midway through my college career at the University of Maine. And when I did come back, I took a wide variety of classes, and one of them was entomology, and just immediately fell in love with entomology. And asked the professor if she had any summertime jobs, and she did, and it was in forestry, and I was living remotely, and this is before cell phones where we drive into town and call in the data and stuff like that in the mid 1990s. And it was just a magical job. That so a long-winded way of saying is I didn't get into this business through turf. I got into it through bugs. And so I worked in California, Indianapolis, and then back in California at different agrochemical company jobs after college. And then I went back to grad school at the University of Massachusetts, started in cranberry, and that didn't work out. It's kind of common theme in my life is a lot of false starts and failures, and they're all good. They're all learning experiences. And then I transferred into Dr. Pat Bidham's lab at UMass, and she's the godmother of turf entomology and just one of the greatest, most positive people, positive influence in my life. And from that, it really kind of catapulted me to where I was, where I'm sitting today. And, I went to Rutgers for my PhD and worked with Dr. Albert Koppenhofer, and he was really instrumental in getting me to where I need to go to. So, kind of happenstance is really, just kind of being open to the universe and seeing where it takes us, and a whole bunch of failure along the way.
So did you mentioned it wasn't turf necessarily, it was bugs that got you here. Was it something you intentionally did then with your passion for the game of golf, trying to find your path in entomology and turf?
Yeah, I think if things went well after I left California and went to grad school, I'd be the king of cranberries. And it's like trying to find a way to get home to Maine, and there is a small amount of cranberries, I guess. I just kind of like the specialty pest management, specialty crops and small crops and stuff like that. And so I think that was my thinking there. And by the time that I transferred into Pat's lab, it was like, man, I can't believe I didn't think about this, 20 years ago. I mean, you're not exposed to these things. And I know, Brian, you got kids who are close to college age, and my daughter will go to college next year. And we were having this talk on the ride home from Columbus yesterday. Like, it's just crazy to think that as an 18-year-old, we expect people to know what they want to do the rest of their lives when all they've done is lived at home with their parents. I mean, really, it's insane. So I didn't know an entomologist growing up. I just, I grew up rurally, but I didn't really think about insects or anything like that. And it's just kind of like the serendipitous thing that you look back and it's like, wow, I love turf. I love bugs. I can't believe that you wouldn't put those two things together. Probably the inventor of the Reese's, peanut butter cup, same thing, like peanut butter and chocolate. And then hindsight, those two great things together.
You're going to be working a little bit, traveling around, doing research, but is there anything that you're doing specific for the school as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think we represent the school when we give talks and whatnot. I think the one thing that's different when I got to Penn State, as I mentioned, my first job out of grad school was working for a small program in upstate New York, at State University of New York at Delhi. And it was your job. I mean, you were one of probably 300 employees on campus. So you were very attuned to changes in kind of enrollment and very involved in that process and going out on the road and recruiting. And I guess that's the one thing that we're really blessed with at Penn State is students find us. And I think it's a lot like Brian's dad, big Penn Stater. And the alumni system is vast. I mean, it's been around for a very long time, and I would like to think that we're the best, if not one of the best programs out there. And not that we rest on our laurels at all, but I do think like it's a lot of passive enrollment, I guess, passive recruitment, if you will, where I don't have to go out on the road. My colleague John Kaminsky, who runs the 2-year certificate program, that's more of a hands-on program. Students who are already in the industry or very focused on golf course turfgrass specifically, they'll go out and actively recruit different people. So I would like to do that, but to be perfectly honest, it's very difficult for us to have any sort of control over admissions at a large Big Ten university. So if I were to go out and recruit, I don't even know how we would begin to guide applications through the process. So there's some pros and cons of working in a big place like this. I mean, it's a big bureaucracy for sure. And navigating that is quite a challenge.
It's good to hear you saying it's the number one program, though, being a Rutgers guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, Rutgers was great to me. I mean, and that's a top program. I think every program kind of does things differently. I would say the difference at Rutgers, I mean, top research institute. I think what we do really well here is the education side of things. Not that people aren't doing research, and I would like to think that my research is decent enough to keep my job, but
you keep getting those projects, so that's good.
Yeah. I mean, but I think like you can't. It's very difficult to do all things, and that's why we need all these programs to provide different things, at least regionally too. Because I don't think like if you're a kid in North Dakota, you're probably not going to travel all the way to Penn State to go to University Park, although people do. But what I'm saying is I think we need, all these programs to be healthy because we have programs like Rutgers that are really, really strong in research, but, they might not have too many people in the undergraduate class. So, we take training our students really seriously. All of the professors, we have many different professors who work on different specialties, like whether it's pathology or whether it's entomology like myself. And we teach those individual subjects. So if you look at our curriculum, you have a lot of different turf specialties. So I think that's an advantage to the education that we deliver here. So because of that, I mean, it's even though we all have these splits of like research, teaching, extension, it's really hard to be excellent in all of those areas. like to think that we come close, but I think you need to kind of find your lane and focus on that. So
What you said earlier, I think, is pretty important too. I mean, I think they all feed upon each other, right? I mean, I think you mentioned it with the extension. I would assume extension, and when you're out in the field talking to people, that kind of drives your research, right? I mean, isn't that one of the crucial things, just to kind of make sure and you have an understanding of what's needed?
absolutely. I mean, research is a whole lot better when it's kind of driven from the ground up. So when superintendents might come to me and say that they have an issue with a certain pest or something's emerging that we haven't seen before, they're the eyes on the ground. They're doing it day in and day out, and kind of the similar vein of the universities specialize in a certain area. You can't expect these hardworking men and women to put in their 12-hour day and then do 6 hours of research at the end of that day to solve their problem. So, it is this kind of, mutualism, this beneficial kind of back and forth. I can think of a lot of our most recent projects that were really inspired by turfgrass managers, superintendents in particular, that, and it's not saying that all of those projects were like, we showed that there was a positive benefit. Negative data is important too, and not finding an effect, is important too, so that people aren't wasting resources. So, yeah, it's immensely beneficial to communicate your results, but also to hear that feedback.
There's the turf bowl down at the GIS, but outside of that, there's probably not a whole lot of competition. And
There's tons of competition, tons.
is there? Okay, well, hey, that's good, right? I guess we need that.
This is what it's always explained to me, from the entomology side of my life, kind of like the less significant things are, we're not solving cancer here. The smaller the battles, the smaller the significance, the bigger the battles. So, yeah, I think there's tons of competition. In the research world in turf, there's not too many places where you can find funding for competitive grants and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, you got to scrap. You got to be a grinder, like you guys driving all over the place, flying all over the place. I mean, it is pretty competitive. So, and I think it's good natured competitiveness. I think this industry is good natured in general. I was explaining that to somebody the other day who didn't know about our industry, and it's like there's really not much that's proprietary. I mean, occasionally you might go to a golf course where they don't have the height of cut or proudly displayed, or it's covered up on the units while you walk through, but that's rare. I mean, for the most part, you're calling somebody on the phone down the road, a neighboring turf manager, and saying, hey, can I borrow this? Hey, what are you seeing? Hey, what do you do in this instance? So it is pretty collaborative. And I would say that for the most part, turf research is too. But yeah, I mean, I think universities are competitive right now because, there's a small pool of people who are interested in this kind of work. We try to promote it, and it's a great life, and there's many different shades to what we do. I mean, look at the two of you are supporting this industry. You're not possibly, doing what I'm doing, or I'm not doing what a superintendent's doing, but there's lots of ways that you can be a part of this industry and contribute to it. So I think it's pretty awesome. I do think that.
You just touched on a couple of things that I wanted to address. And the first thing was you talked about the competition. I don't know that a lot of people quite understand the whole funding required. I know there's hard funding, there's the soft funding with research and all that. Talk about talk about the makeup of that and how you're, getting these dollars to essentially keep your program going.
Yeah, I think it's different in different parts of the world, and different turfgrass associations that support the different universities, and in some places are really well funded and other places are not. But I think there's not a great understanding for the people that I serve. I think of turfgrass managers as the people that I serve, and I think they're largely kind of unaware. I think they think like, I've got this cushy job that just money shows up and all that.
You don't get all that revenue from Penn State football?
Oh my God, I know. Yeah. I mean, like $700 million Beaver Stadium going in, and all we need is, a couple of grand here and there. So basically the way I strip it down in the most basic sense is like I'm a shop at the mall, and the mall is Penn State, and the mall doesn't care what my shop sells. I can sell Pit Viper sunglasses, and that could be my kiosk. They don't care what I do to sell those Pit Vipers. They just want their rent. So that's one way of putting it. I have to fund a technician, graduate students, on and on. So I think one thing that people don't realize is, I'm kind of like a manager. Uh, I'd like to think that I could be doing the research, but really the graduate students really make it happen, I think, at a research place. So they're the ones who get to work on these problems, focus their energy on that. But they also need to be mentored, and they go to classes. So that costs a tuition. They also get a stipend. So if you go to graduate school for turfgrass management, you're getting paid. You're slightly above the poverty line. You're not getting rich, but you shouldn't be incurring any sort of expenses. So I have to come up with that plus benefits. So a graduate student at Penn State is going to cost me about $60,000 a year. So I need to bring that in competitive grants. So GCSA, USGA are two funding sources there. But there are limited kind of opportunities for that for all of the researchers out there, mostly in the United States. So, if you're talking about having a graduate student and costing $60,000 a year, if you're bringing in a grant and you're paying for that graduate student plus supplies, plus, fueling up our truck and everything that we need to get done. And I write that into a grant and I do that research on campus. Penn State's going to take 64% of that in overhead. So you got to generate a lot of money to keep everything afloat. So it's, you're kind of balancing plates, spinning plates all over the place, trying to make sure that everything's funded. So, we're not food, we're not fiber, as one of my colleagues used to say. And so because of that, there's really limited funds for turf grass. So if I'm going up against somebody in agriculture, there's kind of a higher purpose there. You've got to be really creative about where you find funding. And, there is a lot of product testing that can be done. I think that's where a lot of people in pest management, so my area is pest management. There's a lot of products that are coming to market or experimentals that might become a product that need to be tested in the field. So really, I think like this industry, the research side of this industry would have a real hard time existing without our industry partners. So all of the large agrochemical companies, they might have had these molecules in agriculture, but they need to generate data for the EPA or to see how they're going to best work so that they can recommend these to superintendents and athletic field managers. And that's where we come in. So that's always been kind of a source of funding for a lot of laboratories. If you're in the breeding side of things, if you're developing new genetics for the latest and greatest bent grass, then there's probably different funds that you can access. If you're into soil nutrition, then you're dealing with fertilizer companies. For us in our laboratory, we're mostly looking at insecticides primarily. So it's a limited pool of money that you can get. I guess the flip side of it is there's fewer people doing what I do nowadays. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's everybody at most universities are feeling the pinch. Every university is trying to squeeze more out of the people that work there to get more overhead to pay for things like buildings and whatnot. I think the other thing that you're seeing is, the jobs are plentiful out there, and that usually means a little bit harder time for universities to capture students, especially in our kind of work where you can get a job pretty easily. And I think we do capture a lot of those students through our World Campus, our online program. So if they're in a job, then they can take classes as they are on that job. But, I think that's a thing that we're going to see at some universities is declining enrollment. I listen to a lot of podcasts when I drive across the Commonwealth here, and everybody's seems to be recently talking about this decline in birth rate, and we know that this has been coming for a while. So I think you're going to see the population kind of dip a little bit, and that's going to hurt universities in the end. So I think we're starting to see that in our branch campuses a little bit. University Park, they're going to take in 600 more students in next fall's class. So I think they'll be all right here at University Park. But I mean, it is something to think about for the future about how we sustain this. I'd like to think that a university education is something that's incredibly valuable and super valuable to me. But that's going to be different for every person to make, and it's definitely society's changing too. So we'll see where we all fit in on this.
Well, we ask people all the time about, the working relationship or the school relationship. Talk about how important that education can be to lead you into our industry with all the jobs that are available.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, as a parent about to send a child to a university, like it's something we think about a lot, and it's unfortunate. I mean, when I went to the University of Maine, I started in the fall of 1993, and I paid $1,500 a semester, and I could make that in 2 weeks waiting tables in the summertime. So it's not the same today. And you look at liberal arts schools, 60, $80,000 a year. That's really hard to stomach. So is it worth it? It depends. I mean, I think there's a couple of things that we've got to kind of deal with. Is like, what are the outcomes of these things? At least in turf, we know that you can get into a pretty high level entry job with a degree. I think you might be able to get a very, very good education by kind of reverse engineering it. Like I said, maybe starting on the job and enrolling in something like our World Campus, where you take basically the same classes, but at a pace that is comfortable to you. And, the difficulty is you're working and doing that. So it might string it out over a longer period of time. I don't know if people look at those degrees any differently. I think the benefit is that you're working a job, so you're already in the system. And then there's other options like our 2-year certificate program that's really, really economical. It's really quick. You're done in basically 4 8-week sessions over a year and a half with a 6-month internship in between. So there's different things. Back to your original question, do I think it's worth it? I think I would really like to have a highly educated society that I live in. And I think some of the things that you get at a university are not, I hear this all the time. Oh, they don't teach you that in turf school. Well, they don't teach you a lot of the things like living with different people with different views than what you grew up in your household like you do at college. And I would say, and you can take this with a grain of salt because I did have a 1.33 GPA that semester, but the best class I ever took was probably Cake Party 101. And it's, I mean, there's a lot of value in that. I mean, as a parent thinking about my child going and getting a 1.33 and flunking out of school, it would be nauseating right now. But it's probably one of the best things that I ever did. And there are a lot of skills that you learn living away from home, getting outside of your comfort area. I do think if I could be education czar for a day, I don't think that people should declare a major. It would be nice to be able to explore a whole bunch of different things. Occasionally you meet people in this industry though, that know from a very early age, like they wanted to be a superintendent. And it's usually because that's something that somebody in their family did. So with Brian, he knew he was too soft for that stuff and he wasn't going to.
That's right.
And my kids don't want to do what I want to do. It's like, what are you talking about? This is great. Like, look at these opportunities we get to do, So, it's interesting because it's such a niche kind of world that we live in turf that I think that goes back to some of the enrollment questions that I have for the future is what's people's exposure to this field? How are we going to get new people? How are we going to get greater diversity in this field? I think about that all the time, even gender diversity at a minimum. I think it's so key. And I think a lot of the people that we work with in this industry don't want to stick their head out and say, hey, look at me. Hey, look what I'm doing. Look at this really cool thing that I do. I think it's one of the coolest things. But you know what? It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work. And I know Gen Xers are not getting any younger. So
Couple things there. I mean, number one, I guess what's your enrollment like, and kind of what's the makeup of on campus versus the online program, and where are we on that curve of students? Are we still kind of heading down? You starting to see an uptick? What are your thoughts
yeah,
there?
I mean, online has been booming. I think coming out of the pandemic, I think people wanted to get back in person. So again, we have multiple programs. So
Mhm.
I oversee the resident 4 year. So that would be your traditional 4 year education. I oversee that one on campus. I oversee, oh my God, I should know this because I just did program assessment, but 5 online programs. So we have a basic certificate, an advanced certificate, an associate's, a BS, and a master's of professional science. So we have 5 online things, and you could go right through them. You could start with the basic certificate, which is a couple of classes, and then add it and become an advanced certificate to get to associate. So with those, if we think of the 4 onlines, not including the MPS, which that's more for professionals, superintendents, or assistants, athletic field managers that want to get a master's degree. It's not a master's of science where you're doing projects, but it would be like advanced classwork and a kind of a capstone project. So the 4 undergraduate ones, we're seeing incredible growth there. The Masters of Professional Studies, that's pretty solid. It's kind of a niche MPS degree, so that's always going to have 20 to 30 individuals working at their own pace. But the 4 online programs, we have about 300 students on that, so it's pretty incredible there.
Yeah.
And some of them just continue on to different degrees, as I mentioned there. I really, the program that John Kaminsky oversees, the 2 year certificate program, is kind of our historic program. It's the one that, people who have known Penn State through the 80s, 90s, and beyond, kind of, those are the top superintendents at a lot of places have come from that program. It's the traditional program. In the 90s, you had to have a certain amount of job experience. I'm sure not everybody got in. They were busting at the seams, like many places. But that one is really solidly enrolled. I think we have around 50 students in that. So that's between 2 classes, so about 25 per class. Our online resident class has about 80 to 90 students in that. So that's really healthy as well. One of the problems that I see, especially at a lot of these Big Ten schools, it's really hard to get into the main campus as a direct admit right out of high school. So you have to go to a branch campus and then come up. And we're starting to see bigger freshman classes, so that's good. We had, I think, 11 in the freshman class last year, so those kids must be super smart. 13 in this year's, so those are healthy freshman year numbers. But then, like, by the time they get to juniors and seniors, there's probably 25 or so, 20 to 25 in those classes in junior year, senior year. So unfortunately, that's kind of one of the downsides that to what I see as far as me overseeing these programs is sometimes we don't see these students until they're juniors, and then it's boom, senior year, and they're gone. But I think they get a lot of turf classes once they're here, junior, senior year. So sometimes at the branch campuses, it might be some agricultural classes, a lot of GEs, and then they kind of take their turf classes at the back end. So it's not a perfect system. I'd love to have more control over decisions about admissions and whatnot, but so far it seems to be working. So I don't want to rock the boat.
Actually, I have a few buddies right now that are going through the program, the online program, and they think it's fantastic because if there's
Good.
a slower time in the season, they pick up more classes, they do more work, and then when they know there's going to be busier times, they're doing less work and less classes. So it's something like you said, you can kind of do it at your own pace. You bang it out over 2 years, or maybe it takes you a little bit longer, but then that way you're getting the on-the-job training at the same time as going through the schooling. I know one of the guys too that I used to work with, he'd be in my office all the time trying to ask questions and stuff, and I do my best or pass it on to the superintendent, and that's great because then you're in the lunchroom and we're all talking about different things and something comes up, and it's continuing education's always kind of going on. So I think it's a fantastic thing for somebody to go through and to be at a golf course, kind of having it happen at the same time.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things there. I think you've got to be highly, highly organized, right? Because you're working, you have family. I will say it's one of the most dangerous programs to ever enroll in because
Ooh.
inevitably you'll have a couple of parents die, a couple of grandparents die, car accidents, whatever. I mean, we could do a segment at the end where I just read all the emails that I've received during, especially summer class. I'm teaching summer class right now. It's like, wow, I don't need to know. It's just like, I don't need to know why you missed this. I don't need the whole litany of excuses. So it is one of the most dangerous programs, but if you can handle it, yes, those people are highly organized. I think it's one of those things, you get what you put into it, right? So I think there are some people who think, oh, it's online class, click, 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 take the quiz. And I think it's a lot more work than that. At least the classes that I teach intro to turf and I teach the entomology class. And, you just have a huge spectrum of learners, different styles of learning. So you're trying to accommodate. I mean, my turf classes are, 80 students in there. It's writing intensive. I think some people are like, wow, I didn't know that it would be this intense. So, inevitably, some people aren't ready to enter when that happens, but the ones who are really motivated, are great students. Some of my best students have been online, and I think it takes a really passionate individual to do that. Again, this is a kind of a discovery career for many. We call it a discovery major for a lot of students on campus. So, by discovering that you want to do that and you're working a job, it's not you're going to stop that, move hundreds of miles away from your family. So it's really, it's not something that I dreamed up. Dr. Al Turgeon was a visionary when he came up with this idea. And this was really one of the first, if not the first program online at Penn State. And now we have this massive, massive complex that cranks out online degrees in so many different areas. So he was really, really forward thinking, and we owe a lot to him for sure.
What's the makeup of people within your program that this may not be their first or even second career? Are you getting a lot of people that come in after having some other life experience and find this?
Oh, definitely online. That was the case when I was at Delhi. I know that there was a couple of national initiatives like retraining programs where we had some mills close in the area, and then you'd see some people who were second, third career. I do see that a lot in the online program. I would say our 2-year certificate program occasionally has some people who are in their second or third career in that as well. We do get a few students who, might have already had a degree. Again, the 2-year certificate program and the online program are mostly where we capture those students. So, they've taken all the GEs and stuff like that. Again, the 2-year certificate program is for golf course turf. So it's like really, really focused individuals that's what they want to do. So, so a fair amount. I think less so, I would say, in the resident 4-year program. That's more like, transfer of major type, if anything.
We should go to the floor here. We put the question out on Instagram today. Did you see that?
That's how I knew I was on.
Okay.
I gotta say, Adam,
That's excellent.
I was in my tank top, falling asleep on the couch, and I said, "Let me scroll the IG." And it's Ben McGraw's on there. Oh shit!
Oh, that's me.
I better reach out. True
That's
story.
awesome. Well, I picked out a few good ones here for you. It's a few different insects, so I'd love to get into a few of these here quickly.
Sounds good.
I Grow Grass says, "Hey Ben, what do you got for mole crickets?"
Mole crickets. Oh my God. Well, ironically have dealt with mole crickets a couple of times this year. That is a mostly southeastern issue. So that's a little bit outside of my realm of expertise. So I can only tell you about our northern mole crickets, which are really kind of sporadic problem, not anything other than an anomaly. And then Kimberly Guard at Syngenta sent me some photos from Palm Desert, California, when they had some very unusual mole crickets, not our invasive ones. So I would say to this individual, just like I said to Kimberly, you should probably contact Dr. Dave Hill at Auburn University. He's the man who knows everything about mole crickets. It's not something I deal with. So if I were to give a recommendation, it would only be what the textbook says. And I would probably look pretty foolish. So sorry, I'm punting on that one.
No, that works. You get the right man on the job. So, Ozzy Phillip, how far does Dr. Ben McGraw expect the AVWs to spread?
Well, we got to do a little manifest destiny, right? They got to get to California where there's some good poa there. So the odd thing with ABW is if you look at the catalog of weevils north of Mexico, this insect supposedly is in, and I've seen the museum collections from places like Arizona, Nevada. This insect is supposedly in a bunch of states and provinces, like the Yukon, British Columbia. I mean, there's tons of poa there. It's supposedly in California, but we don't know it to be a golf course pest in any of those locations. However, what we traditionally had seen was this insect kind of spread out radially from the New York City metropolitan area, Long Island when it was first discovered, and just kind of slowly expanded. More recently, as in like the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen some populations appear outside of that kind of petri dish expansion of populations. So I've been dealing with some Midwestern populations this year. So Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, we've known about for a little bit of time. So we used to think that it was getting moved around by sod, and that seemed to be the case in like these isolated events in Arkansas in 2016, where they brought in bentgrass sod from New Jersey. Last year, it kind of flared up in Chicago, and that north of Chicago, and that's at first seemed to be sod. It could be sod related, and now it doesn't seem to be the case in all these courses that it's popping up. So I think people are a lot more aware of it, and they might be looking for it, but it definitely seems to be kind of on the move. It's not something that flies great distances. So I would think if anything is kind of being passively or actively moved around, so shipment of contaminated material possibly. I have a feeling like geese are eating them and crapping them out. So I've always wanted to do this experiment where we feed geese different weevils and see if they'll come out live the other end. But, grad students, they don't want to get their hands dirty anymore. So that'd be a lot of dissections of fecal matter. So, but then we could potentially kill Canadian geese legally, right? So if I found that they're moving around invasive. Sorry, Adam.
You'll have a lot of takers to help with that one, I know.
Yeah, so we really don't know how they're moving around. One thing that it's hard, I've always kind of thought that we're seeing some sort of evolutionary event in our lifetime. Like these things take millennia to happen, but it could be like the species is doing two different things, that there are these beetles in all these different states and provinces, and then we have some that just adapted to feeding on grasses that we would find on golf courses. I mean, if you look at how turf management has changed since 1957, it's probably a different food source. And because they don't really disperse great distances, it would be a kind of slow radial expansion out over time. So long-winded story. I mean, I could talk for hours on this, but I got to imagine that there's a lot of different environments where we can grow annual bluegrass. It will feed on creeping bent grass. I have a graduate student who's going to publish some work on trying to feed them to warm season grasses, and that seems to be a dead end. But they'll feed on a couple of different grasses and survive. So I think there's a lot of places they could persist. So I don't really see much slowing them. I think it's just going to be these kind of blips in the radar. It might take something big to move it over the mountains to get it out to the Pacific Northwest, Vancouver, California, but why not? I'm ready for a life change. So let's do this.
Gonna
That's
set up a West
fantastic.
Coast office.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Caden Lyers, what do you spray to get rid of ant mounds on the short grass?
Oh my God, ant mounds. So everybody wants to know about ant mounds. It's July 2nd, right? So May 2nd, I would say you could probably get a pretty good recommendation. Right now, we're in an exponential growth. People will say that they've got a concoction. I saw a bunch of people like, hey, I got the answer for ants, DM me. So, yeah, there are some things that will make you feel like you've done something, but this time of the year, it's going to be really, really difficult. So most insecticides that you could spray are going to knock out the workers. And the worker's job is to bring energy back to mom so she can kick out a bunch of babies. And when they don't return, she just kicks out a bunch of babies. So those workers, are larvae, and then they'll be workers within 14 days or so. So it's really kind of short knockdown with a lot of our contact insecticides. The neonics, which are kind of have a lot of baggage and might be losing in a bunch of states. I know, our surrounding states have all banned the neonicotinoids. That's going to be a big one for ant control, turfgrass ant control, rather. And we don't really know how they work, but really the combination of a contact with the neonic seems to really shut down mounds. However, you need to get it when the colony is weakest, which is in the springtime when mom's coming out of winter and she's basically feeding her babies a really poor diet, feeding them, energy through her saliva, basically. And those babies are small and spindly workers when they grow up until they can start bringing back high valued foods to the mound. So by the time we get into end of June into July, it's gangbusters. So you can apply contact insecticides, but it's just going to knock the mounds down for about a week, and then they pop back up. If you started with our recommendation that we have now, and you mix those two types of insecticides together, you might feel like you got really good control, but what's going to happen probably in 14, 21 days is they're going to stop mounding anyway. And they're going to kind of go underground, and mom's going to start producing males and females with wings, and they're going to start round two. So by mid-August, you're going to see these things fly out of the ground, mate, and start some new queens that are going to cause problem following year. So my advice is start earlier when you first see mounds in springtime.
I've seen more ants this year than I can recall in any year previously. And a lot of it's been traveling in the South. Do ants prefer any different variety, or are they just kind of wherever they settle?
So I'm going to punt on southern ants too, but
Okay.
the difference in the South is they have ants that are far more problematic, fire ants, which have multiple queens to a colony. So like if you can knock out the queen of a turfgrass ant colony, the whole thing just disbands. Without her, they're pretty much lost. With fire ants, you can knock out one queen, you've got another queen in there. They can also have colonies with like 500,000 individuals in them. So much, much harder. The other problem is they can sting. So it's kind of a human health issue as well. So, I think what you see in a lot of the problems in the north, I would say to the south too, and some of those sandy soils as well. Things that they can excavate pretty easily. When the queen is mated in August with our turfgrass ant, she's going to rip her own wings off and then burrow into the turf to create her colony where she's going to be underground. So I think we typically see a lot of problems around sand-based greens, sandy tee boxes, stuff like that, and sandy areas in general, like New Jersey or Long Island, Cape Cod type places. So I think those sites probably lend themselves to better ant habitats, because they have burrows or, kind of their colonies underground. You wouldn't want a place that floods a lot. So drier areas. That's why you see them around structures, pavement, stuff like that. So places that they probably can dig in, but also areas that are going to be close to where they can scavenge for other arthropods to, bring back to the colony and feed to the mom and offspring.
Got some more
Wow.
there, Adam?
Yeah, I got one more.
Okay.
I was kind of stunned when he said she rips her own wings off and buries herself in the ground,
Yeah,
started a new colony. I
right.
was kind of like, whoa.
Yeah.
Soundbite for the promotion of
Yeah,
the
exactly.
episode, right? Yeah.
All right, last one here, and this is a really good one. Hits everybody right at home. Best way to protect our turf dogs from ticks without having to use pesticides.
Oh, well, it's interesting that you say that. I'm a big fan, so I've got a sleeping dog over here, and she's a couple of days overdue on her flea and tick medicine.
Don't tell her.
I want a sponsorship out of this. Vectra is it's like a liquid drop. You just kind of take it from the back of her neck all the way down to her tail. It's just once a month. It's really good stuff. Flea and tick collars are kind of older ways of doing it. Those are really high concentrations of pests. Those are probably the most or the highest concentrations of pesticides that you will find is in the flea and tick collar. So I like the Vectra. It just goes on and dries really easily. I should know what Vectra is.
If you're gonna get a sponsorship from them, you should probably know what it is.
Frontline's another good one as well. But it lasts a month. Really, really good. I can't think of what the active ingredient is, but don't make your own anyway. So I don't need to know it, the active ingredient.
Vector, that's all we need to know, right?
Yes.
Well, that's all good. So enough of this stuff that goes over my head when we start talking about like these practices and stuff. Tell me about beer. What's gotten you into the craft beer?
I am on a beer hiatus. I mean beer making hiatus. I'm slowly interested. I've been crushing seltzers like crazy.
Okay.
I don't know what it is, but I always do dry February because it's right after GIS and the appropriate time. So February became March, became April. And now I've just kind of slowly went back into it. But I was thinking, do I need to sell all my beer making equipment? So I got to that point, but it's tough to say this is forever. So I am minimally drinking these days, unfortunately.
Okay.
I still like the social
that's a good
aspect.
thing.
It is, but I mean, it's golf season too, so I do like having a cocktail or two.
So you're on the seltzer kick. What's your seltzer of choice?
I like Polar seltzer, and yeah, that's my seltzer of choice. So
that's a big change from your craft beers.
I know. I just
I don't even know who you are anymore.
I'm kind of picky. My wife's up in Maine, so I asking her to bring home a bunch. So I'll probably get back into it. And in all truth be told, I made some transfusions at home the other day. So it is kind of cocktail season more than beer season. But I'm sure once the weather turns, it's not fun to make beer when it's hot and you're over a kettle. So I'll probably get back to it in the fall, unless somebody wants to make an offer on some used brewing equipment. DM me.
You might get some takers.
I know. I would give it away if I had somebody local who wanted to learn, but I mean, there's no way I'm going to recoup any of the money that I put into it. So again, it's probably, I'm just going to have to keep with it and start making beer again and just suck it up.
You've gotten a couple good years out of it though. So it was money well spent, right?
Oh, no. I mean, that's something I did in grad school. I worked in a brewery. I was an assistant brewer, and before that, when I was in California, I worked for a biopesticides company. So that's where I learned how to make beer. And yeah, it's been fun, and God, it's been 24 years of making beer. So
you're getting old.
Yeah, I know. That's probably better to have the seltzer.
Yeah. I'm thinking about making that switch too. So you're not alone.
You get to a certain age where it's like, wow. So
yeah, it just hits you different after a while.
It
right?
does. I mean, when people said that, oh, when you turn 40, you're gonna notice things. And it's like, yeah, that happens. And then it's like, man, right before you get 50, you're gonna need glasses. And it's like, yeah, here we are. All these things are coming true.
Well, Ben, this has been fantastic. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to talk about or we're planning on mentioning today.
No, thanks for having me on.
We can't let him go without him talking about Turf Lego. When's the next one coming out? It's been a while, man. Did you give that up too?
I kind of had I did it for my class. So I one of my online classes I started integrating all the PowerPoints would be Turf Lego. And then so I did all this stuff and I turned it over to the instructional design. They're like, you need to re-record this audio. And it's like I did all this stuff. So I had this big push to put it all out. I was going to make all my classes Lego online, just a way to have the PowerPoints and stuff. And then it's like, there's just so many barriers to doing it. And I gave them all the scripts for this closed captioning. So that really kind of I was cranking on that. So not a whole lot of public consumption, but a lot of the teaching side of things. And then they just crushed my spirit. So I'll probably get back to it on the other side, but man, the workload is intense right now, Brian. I will say
Yeah, I'll
that.
bet.
So,
I'll bet.
yeah, I need a little bit of a break. So I don't know. Probably
What,
conference season is usually when I do the turf Lego stuff.
I mean, stop motion takes a long time. How long does it take you to make one of those 2-minute videos?
Oh, I mean, I really had like a good system. I mean, I think one of the things is like it's professionally unprofessional. And so when you have that um, kind of mantra, it's pretty easy to crank them out in like a half an hour to an hour.
Oh, sounds cool.
So, you know, if I haven't done it in a couple of months, so it would probably take me a little bit of time, but it's like there's definitely ways that you can make it quicker. And so you find the shortcuts after a while of doing it. So I did that for a couple of years. It's been fun. And I think I got it to a point where as long as you're not like worried about quality, you can rip them off pretty quick. So I think that was a problem for my classes. I was trying to make them perfect. And then they're like, well, you got to do this. And we need, are these your photos? And it's like, yeah, those are my photos. And then there was one that was my photo. So I lost, weeks of time there. So yeah, it's I want to be compliant. I want to be compliant. So
Oh man, like you said, you work for that big monster, that big machine of the
yeah,
big university. So spoiling
true.
all the fun. So am I gonna, so you mentioned you guys are gonna go up. Your son is an alternate for the US juniors?
Yeah, yeah, we just got that today. So better chance of getting in if you're on site. So we're going to the junior am. He's up in Maine right now, playing in a AJGA event. So my wife
Nice.
said we just got the alternate email, so it's good. He had a good day, lost in a 4-for-1 playoff, but he was the first alternate, so that seemed like a win. And yeah, it will be fun. I've never been to Oakland Hills, so Detroit golf is awesome. Really impressed every time I see it. And it sounds like that's the granddaddy of them all. So
Oh yeah, it's pretty special. You have to make sure you come down to the shop and say hey to everyone. I know Phil's got 60 volunteers coming in and on top of what he has, so it's going to have a bit of a US Open feel that week.
that's
So
really
excited
cool.
for it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, at least he gets, I have to read the email about what an alternate gets at the very least. But yeah, he'll get some practice rounds. So we'll swing by. Kaminsky's going to
Sweet.
come in to caddy. So he's flying in. So we'll see how that goes. But
Oh man.
so we'll make
I might have to mic those guys up and just follow them around during a practice round. That might be kind
oh
of
my
fun.
God, that would be amazing. So yeah, I mean, there's no guarantee that he gets in. The kid
Sure.
who got the final spot at his qualifier, so they were all tied at 3 under, and it was all D1 bound kids,
Oh
all
wow.
kids going to Southern schools, and this kid was going to Louisville, and the dad said go. He was like he was in the same spot a couple of years ago, and we got the call, and it was at Bandon Dunes, and he was to get
Oof.
there from Kentucky would have broke the bank. So at least this
Yeah.
is close enough where we can drive, and if not, we'll go play golf somewhere if he doesn't get in. So win-win.
Yeah. I'm sure you have a few connections up there. You can make a few calls and get onto some pretty spectacular places.
Yeah, that would be great.
You have to tee it up. Let me know when you're back in town. Would you say
Yeah,
your daughter has fencing again?
yeah, we got to go back out on Saturday, Sunday, so probably not
Okay.
golf, but yeah, I think we're gonna play in that week on the way up to the junior am and possibly on the week back on the way back, just whenever that happens.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful. Well,
man.
hit me up. You know where I
Yeah,
am.
yeah, let's do it. My game's rusty right
Oh,
now.
dude,
Too
you're
much
not
work.
alone. You're not alone. That's why I always get that question. Oh, you travel all these great places. You get to play? No, it's like I'm either at a renovation or a tour event or something. It's like I'm not going to be able to tee it up next to Tiger. So,
Oh man, I started the year at my lowest ever.
oh
4 point
yeah?
4.5,
Nice.
and I am now like a 7. Like it's gone up. And men's league, I got rolled 5-4 the other night. I mean, just I'm in the wilderness. It's gonna go higher. I don't see it
But
stopping.
that, you know what that means though? It means that you've got that game in you somewhere. And so the higher your handicap gets, the better partner you're going to be someday, right? It's gonna show its head eventually.
I had to give 13 strokes and 9 holes in a 5-4 match. And on the par 5, he was on in 2. So I was like, you're basically lying 0. And so after
That's tough to beat.
I walked off the course. I didn't play in after the 5th hole, and I went to the pro shop, and I did that. In all honesty, I had a few cocktails, and I went to the pro shop and I said, it's statistically improbable that a 30 handicap would be 3 over through 5 holes. And they were like, oh, it happens. And there, somebody in the background said, that's Mountain View for you. So it wasn't fun, but I'm in the wilderness. I got a father-son tournament coming up. So as long it's best ball though, so I can be ball in
Okay.
hand. So
Nice.
I'll just swing
Nice.
out of my pants. So we'll see.
How old was your son when he first started to beat you?
13. Like on the rate. I didn't beat him last year, and I haven't beaten him this year. So 14, 15, he's undefeated.
Man.
Damn.
Yeah.
What was that day like?
He's a +3.
Oh man.
So I am
Was
not.
that a proud slash sad day when that happened?
I would always want to beat him. I mean, I with
Yeah.
my kids, like if we're playing foosball in the garage, I'm not letting up. If we're playing pickleball, I'm smashing it into them. Like that's just how our family rolls, I guess.
It's same way, man.
I
Make them
mean,
earn it.
absolutely, absolutely. So I can hang for a couple of holes, and then it's just too much.
Get it. I get it. Well, looking forward to seeing you up in Detroit, if not sooner.
Yeah, man,
Again,
that's soon. That's real soon.
yeah, it's coming up. It's coming up soon. So end of the month. But
Yeah,
yeah, appreciate you putting a shirt on. Glad you didn't
I
hop
know.
on with the tank
I know.
top.
I do. I got my good
Much
vibes tank top on.
nice, nice.
Nice.
I love it. I love it. But always great to chat with you, and look forward to catching up again here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. That's
It was
awesome.
great getting to meet you, Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Nice to know you.
Yeah, we'll chat soon. And if anything comes up before Tuesday, let us know. It should be a good one, though.
All right, sounds great.
All right,
Take
man.
care.
Take care, Ben. Thanks again. Good stuff.
I didn't know where
Yes.
that was gonna go because I mean I'm not a big bug guy myself. That wasn't one of the classes I got all A's in. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been told too that he's just a great down to earth guy, and if he's in a scientific conversation with somebody, he can kind of let it all loose, and then if he's with somebody that kind of doesn't really get it, he'll dance around it and make it work. So I thought he was fantastic with that.
He's good. He is. He's a lot of fun to hang around. I've been fortunate to have him over in some of the events that I used to run, and got to spend a little time with him beforehand, afterhand, or whatever, just kind of chatting. So yeah, he's a good dude, really good dude, and obviously very good at what he does.
Yeah, and really cool to see that he didn't really have that in mind when he got into the industry or when he started kind of pursuing things. It was something that sort of came up for him and that he really fell in love with and then sort of started pursuing it. And now look at him, like it's like the perfect job for him.
I think that's common, right? I mean, I think people go in thinking they want to do something, and all of a sudden they're introduced to something else, right? And they find a passion for that. So I think it's, especially in our industry. I mean, I think, like he said, not enough people know that it actually exists and that there are really good, high-paying opportunities out there. And people tend to fall into it in so many different ways. But yeah, I loved hearing the story of him essentially being told not to come back to college.
Yeah.
That's great. I wanted to dive into that a little deeper with him, but yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, he's certainly found a niche, and that program is thriving, and yeah, it's great to hear. So I know there was there for a long time. A lot of programs have really been struggling to find students. I think it's still an issue, but Penn State certainly doesn't seem to be one that's hurting to find people.
Yeah, I think we had mentioned that at the beginning of the episode now too. They're finding it's less common that kids go to school right away. You're 18,
Yeah.
you just graduated high school, and it's time to go to school or it's time to go to post-secondary. when it's if you don't really know what you're doing, should we be spending the money? Should we maybe work a little bit, get the experience, figure out what it is we want to do? And maybe you're, having people wait a little bit and then finding a career like that, or they're going to school, figuring out that they don't like it and they want to find something else. So it is cool to see people find their way in it. It's sucks that they have to waste a little bit of money in the interim, but
Absolutely. And it's worthwhile, right? I mean, you get away from home. I think school gives you that great opportunity where you're still kind of on the verge of not necessarily all the responsibilities you're going to have, but you're learning to live on your own. And those life experiences are just as valuable as, some of the stuff you're learning in a classroom. So getting away, whether you're taking a job somewhere and doing the online program or you're actually enrolling in a campus. I mean, I think it's just so good to take that time and learn about yourself, learn about life. It's invaluable.
yeah. And for people listening to, if you're worried about school or the price of education or whatever it is, just get started. If you're working and you're interested in this industry and moving on, just get it started. And there's nothing wrong with talking to your superintendent or talking to your golf course about some sort of aid, because there's a lot of men and women out there that want good assistance. And if it means that, paying for your education a little bit or helping you with things on the side so that you can get your assistant status, or be able to help them out more, I know it's a common thing. So that, open your mouth, open your eyes, look online, talk to some of your peers that have done it, because this could change your life and you don't have to give up what you're doing right now and go to school for 4 years. You can keep doing what you're doing, keep living your life, keep earning money, and you might even be able to find some help going to school.
I used to manage a bunch of different organizations that gave out scholarship dollars, and you'd be shocked. I mean, give out 10 to 25,000, $30,000 worth of scholarships, and we get 3 applicants.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts how much money is kind of left on the table just because either people don't know that it's out there or they don't want to take the 15, 20 minutes to fill out an application. I mean, there's just so much money that's left on the table that anyone that's interested in pursuing an education in this, you can find it. It's, certainly, like you said, reach out to your superintendent, reach out to one of your local GCSAA chapters, your state's Turfgrass Foundation, or state's association. All these places have some sort of financial aid available to people that are looking to pursue this career.
Also thought it was really cool too. He was saying that there's 5 different levels of online programs for turf, so that it could be really, it could be for anybody. You can
Yeah.
find any different level of education there through those guys, or any of the other schools.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They've got it for all levels. So from beginner to the experienced, there's something for all levels. So, and I was glad that he touched upon kind of some of the funding. That's one of the things that um, not too many people are aware of. They're essentially responsible for finding their own money. Every year, kind of going out, find research dollars, find grants for grad assistance. And I was glad he really talked about how vital those grad students are to a lot of the work that they do. I mean, they rely on those folks to be with them and get a lot of these trials done. And without some of those students, a lot of the research you see out there now just doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's very important. So there's lots of avenues for people in this industry. I know myself, I was somebody who didn't go to school right out of high school. I was a hockey player, so I didn't really have the time, and I got right into it, and it was busy. When I stopped playing hockey, that's when it was, okay, let's go back to school for this. And I absolutely loved it. It was the right
Yeah.
time. It was the right move. Sure, there's a lot of other people out there that are going to be going to, similar avenue.
Dr. McGraw referred to my dad. He went to Penn State's 2-year program, but similar situation. College wasn't for him right out of high school. Um, got into some other careers, and he went back to school. When he was 20, or no, when he was like 30. So yeah, I mean, it's just because you're 18 years old doesn't mean you're can't go to college. So I'm glad you touched upon the hockey thing. I want to get back to that, man.
Mhm.
Let's talk about your journey. One thing I want to get into, we may have a couple new listeners and stuff like that. I want to hear more about your background. I think it's fascinating, especially the hockey stuff. Tell me about your journey in hockey.
That was definitely busy for me. I was a hockey player, Canadian boy, so we played a lot of hockey. I didn't play a ton of golf in the summer. I was more of a baseball player. I grew up with a hockey stick and a baseball bat, but being up here, I did that as much as I possibly could and traveled around a lot. Played for the local team here in the OHL, which was the Ottawa 67s. And from there, I signed with the Boston Bruins. So I was part of the Boston Bruins organization for a number of years. I mostly played in their farm system. So I played for the Providence Bruins. They also had a farm team in Alaska. So I lived in Anchorage, Alaska for 2 years. We won a championship up there. And from then on, I just kind of bounced around. I was a goalie, so kind of like a pitcher in baseball. You're kind of by yourself, if you will. And so I found it very competitive, and I really enjoyed it. But at the same time, I was a very, very big team player. I was one of those guys where you meet a lot of different athletes, and goalies, especially in hockey, are kind of known as a little bit different and kind of weird.
It screws loose.
Everywhere I went, everybody was like, "Why are you a goalie? Like, you just don't fit that makeup, you know?" And I honestly, I truly can tell you, I think that's why I kind of stopped. I just couldn't handle it. I really enjoyed the being a hockey player and being part of the culture and being on the team and doing everything in the community. But when it came down to like the pressure of the game and everything, I don't know. Towards the end of it, I was fed up with it. I remember calling my dad one day. We were in Florida and we had a morning skate. My team went to the hotel and I went to the beach. I didn't really know what was going on, and something in my mind just said, "Call your dad." And I was standing on the beach in Florida and I called my dad and I just said, I just can't handle this anymore. I've been doing this my whole life and I just don't want to do this. And I thought that this was going to be my life. I thought I was going to do this and I'm really scared and I'm really worried. And he was just like, "Buddy, you can do whatever you want to do. You don't have to keep doing this." And it felt like after that day, my eyes just opened up to so much more. There's so much more in this world. And, I don't have to be what other people want me to be, or I don't have to be this image that other people have of me. I can do whatever I want. And at that same time, I was playing down south. So we spent a lot of time on the golf course and I'd fallen in love with the game of golf and at a cool time too, because I hadn't played a lot of golf, but these guys, all athletes were being paid well. We're all down there with a bunch of free time. So we spent a lot of time on the golf course. And two of my good buddies on the team worked golf course maintenance. They would go home in the summer and they'd change holes or they'd cut greens or whatever it was. And that was what their summer job was. And so I played golf with them a little bit and talked to them a little bit about it. And they started telling me about the irrigation system on the course and how they roll greens and how they spray pesticides and cut down trees and everything. And I'm like, this is a really cool industry. You get to be on the golf course all the time. You get to work hard. You get to, be motivated and be on a team and everything. I figured this is perfect. Back home, my family actually lived on a golf course and never played on it and only been out there to play baseball and on the fairways and play football on the fairways and stuff, but never
Get chased
actually.
off.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I applied for a job and got the job right away. And I remember my first day working turf. I didn't know what to expect. Like I honestly had no idea what to expect or what they were going to have me do. And I met, one of my best friends in the world and a superintendent that day. And I think when I first started turf, I was living in my parents' basement. I had a computer, a TV, and a set of goalie pads, and that was pretty much it. And now, after working turf for about 8 solid years with that superintendent, I've completely turned my life around. I have so much to be thankful for, and a healthy, happy family and everything. And it's all because of this industry and how much support there is. And I really didn't know where my life was going to go, and to make a transition out of one sport into a different sport and a kind of a side piece of that sport. I'm having so much fun, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity and that my eyes were open to something like this, because I honestly didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And my life has been changed and my family's life has been changed because of the golf course.
I got to figure out how I want to phrase this question. I mean, your identity was a hockey player, right? So I think a lot of superintendents kind of fall into that, where they identify based on their career, right? They are superintendents. How difficult was it for you to kind of give up that identity as a hockey player to make that transition? And has that, I guess, emotionally kind of evolved then, where you've given up that identity and you're comfortable giving up that identity?
That's a fantastic question. That took some time. That really did take some time. That's a big ego thing. It was a big maturity thing for me too. That's something that the golf course really, really matured me. I was somebody I was young. I was a young 18 when I started playing pro hockey. Definitely matured later in life. And yeah, the golf course really grounded me, and it was hard to be like, okay, I'm going to go from being this guy who, people know and who people, like being around and see you as a certain thing. The amount of people that wanted me to be a hockey coach or a goalie coach or stick with hockey, it's hard because they kind of pull you in that direction. But for me, I was more focused on my future, and I just wanted to take care of myself. Like a lot of athletes, I went through some trouble when I was younger with substance abuse and trying to figure out who you are as a person and where you want to fit into the world and things like that. And that was really hard. So for me, the golf course really, really grounded me. And I was really finding the peace of just being by myself and taking care of myself. And so it definitely took some time. And I definitely had that, those aspirations of being a superintendent and of eventually kind of having that new title. That was certainly a motivator that I'd have to give this up for a while, but I could be, leader of a crew at a good course in our city and, be on the board of directors and stuff like that. There were those goals, but, as we've talked about, things come up and stuff happens and you find new people in your life and you find new avenues and you put your head down and you work hard and you be a good person and those things are going to come up and those opportunities are going to arise. So the whole thing about turf today is it was almost like a job or something that I saw, like a career that I saw. I would love to be at golf courses and covering these tournaments and helping, promote the industry and showcase all the amazing work all over the world. It was like a dream or a goal, and we've worked hard at it and yourself as well, and here we are.
That's awesome. So did the team environment within the maintenance department there when you started for those 8 years, did that kind of satisfy your fix for that team environment, for that camaraderie?
100%. That was my big
Yeah.
strength. I wasn't the teacher at the golf course, but I was everybody's
Yeah.
friend. I was somebody that everybody could rely on. And that was the same thing about being a teammate. You're always going to get honesty from me. You're always going to get hard work and I'm always going to be a friend first. So to be honest with you, being an assistant, sometimes, the kind of person I was, my superintendent always said, like, you're going to always be a very good assistant because you do have such good relationships with the crew. He always said, your hardest thing is going to be becoming a superintendent and having to be kind of a director and be on top of these guys and push them and kind of have to be the bad guy sometimes because that was something that I never really had that. So it's been good working as a manager and learning, how to kind of say no sometimes and have that backbone. But yeah, being a hockey player, being an athlete and, being around the boys or being around your friends all the time, that's something that I brought a lot of to the golf course every day, and we had a lot of fun.
That's good. Yeah. Like I said earlier, I mean, I think not too many people, at least that I'm aware of, know exactly about your backstory. And so, yeah, appreciate you sharing that. So
Yeah, yeah,
I
no,
think,
I don't think we've told that story too much on the show.
yeah,
Trevor and I, we never really got into our whole backstories when we first started this, but little
sure.
stories have come out here and there. But the full story about me being a hockey player, I don't think we've ever really pieced together. So yeah, it's good to be able to put it
Take,
out there.
takes a lot of work to get to that level. So, like we talk about all the time, you're no stranger to hard work. So it's
Yeah,
that's very cool. Did you ever get the call up to the big leagues? Did you ever suit up for the Bruins?
I played some exhibition games for the Bruins, and
Yeah.
the one year they won the cup. Tim Thomas was sick throughout like the one of the final parts of the run, so I was up backing up and practicing with those
Nice.
guys every day. So that was a lot of fun. But I was a Bruins goalie, so like I backed up
Yeah.
Tuukka Rask so much. He was the guy I couldn't get past him. He was the man, and one of the nicest, greatest guys I've ever met in my life too. So. There was a lot of fun stuff with hockey. I learned a lot just traveling around. Like Ben was saying, being in different rooms with people from all over. And, I've had roommates that lived in different countries and grew up in completely different cultures. So I think I've taken a lot from my travels and my days, and I'm a very street smart person. Certainly not the smartest person when it comes to the books, but I've seen a lot and done a lot, and definitely I don't even know where I'm going with that, but yeah.
Lots of life experiences, that's
Oh,
for
lots of
sure.
life experience. But yeah,
Yeah. So did you get a ring then?
Yeah, when we not with Boston. I had a jersey
Oh.
with Boston, yeah, but I didn't play a game in the finals, no. But our team in Alaska won the Kelly Cup, so we've got
Yeah.
rings for that, and that was a fun one.
Well, if they brought you up during their championship run, I wasn't sure if the Bruins would get you a ring for even just being on the bench.
I think you got to play a game in the finals, or you have to play a certain amount of games in the season. But no, I had a jersey with like the Stanley Cup patch on it, so that was kind of cool.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Where's that hang?
It's in a box somewhere right now.
Oh, come on, it's in a box. You got to be proud of that, man. You got to
Yeah.
put that in the back there.
We got the 67s jersey hanging, which we're pretty
Okay.
proud of here. It's the local team that I played on here, so that's the one. We're Sens fans in this house, so we don't really hang the Bruins stuff too much. But no, it's
It's understandable.
the Bruins are definitely a big part of me, a big part of my upbringing, and maturing into the man that I am today. And I owe a lot to those guys. They did a lot to help me out in my past for sure.
Sure. Yeah, life's a journey, right? So that's a pretty
100%.
incredible journey.
It's been a lot of fun, and it's certainly not over. And the more we get into this, and the more people we get to meet through this, I'm just more and more motivated to keep this thing going and keep getting bigger and bigger. One of the posts we made the other day I thought was really cool. We had a bunch of people reaching out, just commenting about how cool the videos are that they're getting to see from the tournaments, and clearly how much work you're putting into all the stuff. So it's not going unnoticed. And not to brag or to pump anything here, but like with our show keeps getting more popular. We keep getting more downloads, which is a huge credit to you and the Superintendent Network and all of our listeners. Like you can't buy views. It's all about people sharing the show and people wanting to listen to the show. So hats off to you and to everybody out there for helping with that.
You're the one that makes this show run, man. So appreciate your work.
Well, it's team effort, brother.
Hope you have a good one. We'll chat soon.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
Okay, take care.
See ya.
And to all you good-looking folks out there, whether you are on a mower, in the car, on the road, walking down a fairway, listening to these things while you study, keep those fucking reels sharp, would you?